Community questions and comments on the reopening presentation that we had. I'd like to see if the board has additional questions. This isn't, I don't want to do comments right now, just questions right now, and then we'll do comments and motions after that. Trustee Carrion, do you have any other questions?
Not questions yet.
Okay. Trustee Maher, any questions? You're on mute.
I have a question regarding cohorts. It's my understanding that the county has sent some new guidelines or is relaxing the number of students that can be in a cohort. Is that true, David?
So the state director has given guidance that the size of the cohort is not as important as the wearing of masks and physical distancing.
Okay. Thank you. That's my only question, Mark.
And they did give approval per the presentation for the 212 model that we had without modification. Right?
So that was specifically the Alameda County Department looked at the plan and gave a thumbs up to that plan for secondary schools once we meet the red tier 5-day criteria.
5 day, right, okay. Trustee Makashi, do you have any additional questions?
Just to piggyback off of what Trustee Maher is saying, just to restate, so making sure I understand correctly. So the schedule that was approved for secondary on July 14th has the blessings from Alameda County, Dr. Haglund? The schedule for secondary that was approved for July 14th, that hybrid model, has the blessings from Alameda County.
The schedule that was shown in the presentation tonight.
And
It's the same, it's the same
that's the same
schedule.
one,
Mhm.
okay. Just making sure, so, okay, thank you. That was just wanting to confirm, thank you.
A couple questions then. I forget which community member it was, but there is a question about substitutes and replacements, and are we confident we can fill any sort of gaps there as per the question?
Trustee Miller, so we currently do have 120 certificated substitutes who are registered with our school district to be able to sub. We are, again, we do have enough staff to be able to fill our classrooms. And with that number of subs, that was about the right number. Actually, we had about 4 more last school year before we got into COVID-19. Again, it's about having our substitutes both work in person as well as remotely. So we don't know until we engage, but we feel confident that we have staffing to do that. The other point also is that we did conduct a survey of our staff, as I mentioned earlier, in that survey asked the question, will you be reporting in person or will you not be reporting in person? The purpose of that survey was to be able to determine vaccination priority that we earlier discussed and Mr. D'Alonzo discussed. Out of that survey, we only had 95 employees report to us that they will not be reporting in person. That's out of 1,700 regular employees. Out of those 95, only 43 were certificated staff, 19 of which have already engaged us in the interactive process, which means that we already know because of a condition that they will not be reporting in person. Assuming that our certificated staff and others have reported honestly in the survey and with the information they contained, that's a very small number out of the 800 members of APT who have indicated that they will not be reporting in person. So I don't see, with that data, again, things could change, but it's a very low number compared to the 800. So that piece of data, as well as the 114 employees that we have as substitutes, and our plan to be able to move staff who are currently either coaches or itinerant staff if need be, temporarily if that does occur. I think we have a plan to be able to address that shortage should that arise at the beginning of our transition to in-person instruction.
Okay, thank you. And then, Dr. Woodward, I think this is for you, there was another question there that was interesting about, if a student who is a hybrid person decides, well, today I'm not going to class, I'm going to do remote instead or something like that, or I suppose if they're ill, it's a different situation, but is that a viable option for kids to do, or once they choose that, they're really expected to be in the classroom?
Right. Once they choose their model, we really expect them to show up every day.
Okay. Then, Mr. Hernandez. So, Trustee Maher brought up some questions around, what would need to be changed if we didn't, if we moved forward with a plan that was different than what we had approved last board meeting. For example, if we said, no, we're going to switch from red tier to as soon as the county allows, plus 10 days or whatever we did, which MOU is it that we would actually have to go back to the drawing board on?
Can't hear.
We can't hear you, Julio.
Oh, that's because the mic is off. I apologize. Where do you want me to restart?
Next Mr. Graham.
Start over again.
So
MOUs.
So the MOUs. So there are two existing MOUs with APT. The primary MOU was signed in August. That MOU allows the school district to reopen instruction, in-person instruction, either in a partial model or a full return model. That MOU is not, there's no prerequisites to that MOU that state that we have to be in a color tier or in a percentage of positive cases of COVID. It doesn't require those. What it requires is a notification to APT of 10 days, at least 10 days. The district has officially notified APT of those 10 days at least 3 times in writing. We've satisfied that need, although one would argue that they, in the interest of giving some time, that 10-day notice could be reissued if need be. The other caveat was a transition days. it spoke of 3 transition days that were not settled in the August MOU. So we had to negotiate in December when we believed we were going to open in January. So the association, the district, we were all ready to open. There was no disagreement that we could not reopen in January. Unfortunately, the tier system triggered us back. But in that process, we had an MOU where it had our transition dates to be in December so that we could open up in January. We had to scrap that MOU because of the changed circumstance. So we have the December 17th MOU, and that December 17th MOU doesn't have specific dates, because at that time we had no specific time of when we were going to open. But it does state that the transition days and an orientation day, which is 4 days, which is consecutive time, those days are the 4 days preceding opening. It's clearly stated in the MOU. So if the board decides to open secondary, whatever action the board takes today, those days will be 4 days preceding the opening of secondary, whenever the board chooses to do that. For elementary school, it said that it would open 2 weeks into the red if it's consistent with the county guidance. The county guidance currently says that we have a matrix of less than 25 to 100, I believe, is the matrix that currently exists. And it also says that if there's a change to that motion, meaning the elementary school motion, that the language in the MOU would be renegotiated. Again, it's only selecting the orientation day and the transition days. It is not the whole MOU. To Trustee Maher's question of how long would that take, well, it's not renegotiating the whole MOU. It's over 20 pages long. It's negotiating a 1-page MOU, selecting the dates that precede the reopening of elementary school. One would expect that APT would negotiate in good faith, that we could do it quickly, and transition into in-person instruction. To create some clarity about those MOUs, I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Those are all my questions. So, so let's go to sort of comments then. Trustee, and you know, we can always make motions or whatever, but most interested in comments at this point. Trustee Carry-On, what comments do you have for us?
I'll let Steve go first.
I guess it's kind of a question, comment, but Julio, is there anything stopping us from making a motion to open, let's say, March 1st, to start with the phase-in?
Trustee Maher, there's nothing preventing the board from making that motion.
I guess the elephant in the room is, will our teachers buy into that and be willing to come back?
I believe that would be a question more for our teachers. But again, to just indicate some data, Trustee Maher, when we asked the question, will they return in person, all but 46 that responded to the survey out of the 800 said that they won't report to in person. The survey question didn't say when. It was a general question. Again, it was attached to the question about creating the priority list for the vaccination. But again, the Teachers Association leadership, they are the ones that are at the negotiating table. Our teachers, those are the teachers' representatives. We don't direct or negotiate directly with our teachers. We direct our negotiations with that leadership. And then, so we would have to ask them what that would look like, Trustee Maher. I could not speculate.
I know, because I think it would be unhealthy to put a date and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, the staff did not come back, or a lot of staff didn't come back. That would not be a good situation. So I guess I'm asking something that no one here can answer.
Trustee
Do you
Maher,
have,
the
do
only
you
way
have a meeting coming up with the association soon?
we do. The only way I could answer that question, Trustee Maher, is that we are all operating in good faith. to do what we believe to be in the best interest of our students. I believe that the association at the negotiating table, I know that at the association at the negotiating table has stated that they are not attempting to prevent the reopening of school. So I would take them for their word at the last negotiation session.
Are you going to be meeting with them within the next week or so? I don't need to know dates, but
So I did meet with the association leadership yesterday. I did advise them that we were having a board meeting obviously today. It's a very, I don't know to what the adverb would be for this meeting, the adjective, but I did tell them that depending on the action that was taken by the board today, that we would be in touch with them tomorrow to either schedule negotiations sooner than we have scheduled, again, depending on what action takes place today. So I did meet with...
Okay, this may be out of line and maybe not correct, but as you meet with them, again, I don't want to get into what you talked to them about, but is it possible to lead into the opening of school and that the board would like to see us set a date? And are they willing to, yes, we're committing to that, so that we can set a date? Because I know we're all kind of, I'm speaking for them, but probably they're a little hesitant because they're not sure what's going to happen.
I don't know how to answer that question, Trustee Maher.
You don't
Of course
have
I could,
to, I guess.
Of course, I could communicate anything to
There's some things negotiations I don't need to know about, neither does anybody else. But I would hope that that subject would come up then, and that the board wants to set a date, and so we need the teachers to be on board. And so
again.
I implore Michelle to get together with you.
So again, we are meeting and negotiating, again, in good faith, both sides are. I did meet with them yesterday to discuss that there may be a likelihood that we would need to meet sooner than later, depending on what the board action is today, to specifically talk about reopening at a different date. So they, depending on what the decision of the board is today. Again, I did let them know that depending on the board action today, that I would be reaching out to them tomorrow to schedule negotiations sooner than later, all depending on what the board does today. It is a constant conversation that we have reopening. I think we breathe and live it every day.
I know you do.
So depending on what happens with the board today, we will act accordingly.
Any other
Well, maybe
comment?
I'll talk to Joan and request a meeting next week and see how the data is going. If it's going down, then maybe we could talk about setting an opening date, and then you'll have that date. That's all.
Trustee Makashi, any comments?
Comments or questions?
Either.
So I think it's challenging here because I think we need to separate elementary from secondary because we're mixing the two. So I think it makes it a little difficult to process and, make an executive decision. But, I have had a lot of reflection, and from the last board meeting, we had basically, it was 2-hour notice that the Alameda County guidelines were aligning with the California Department of Health in terms of the 25 per case to 100,000. So it really kind of shifts thinking. Right now there are Alameda County guidelines that says that we can open safely for elementary. So that's one issue. And I think we need to think about that. Do we want to align with that? But the motion at hand tonight is also on the secondary, which have different requirements that we have to follow with the red tier. And so it's just something that we need to think about as we're having these conversations. Because for me, thinking about my 3 children at home, and I have to come home and tell them what the decision is, and they're living and breathing the remote learning, and God bless their teachers. They are doing amazing working with my children and working hard. I have had a lot of reflection from the last board meeting, And I feel that the decision was made so that we could come to an agreement on keeping our community together instead of a divide. But now some things, moving motions and things are changing. I really do feel for elementary, the Alameda County guidelines are saying that we have guidelines to follow to allow opening for our elementary. I think we should support that. So anyway, I just think we need to kind of separate out the two, elementary versus secondary, because we're kind of mixing the two, and it's making it really hard to make a well-founded decision. But ultimately, those are my reflections.
Okay, so let me just say this, then I think that's a good point to separate the two. And there's no reason we can't do multiple motions here. We can say, for example, I mean, because there's no leeway in the secondary guidance, or not guidance, rules. We either, except for we either open or we don't open. And if we do open, I guess when, supposedly. So you can't open before 5 days after we are deemed in the red tier. So we could take a motion that says we would adopt admin's recommendations on what secondary looks like, meaning it will be, starting, a week after third to fifth grade starts, and it will be under the model that was presented. We could take a motion for that, and that could stand on its own. We could similarly take a separate motion on if we wanted to change our direction around elementary schools. So that would be some, or we could do it all at once.
So I just want to be clear that we already have a settled issue with elementary. That's not on the agenda today. Secondary is on the agenda today for a motion.
But the agenda item says opening schools, and then the recommendation was secondary.
Yeah, I don't know that finds us there. Report, discussion, and action on school reopening. Trustee Carrion, any thoughts?
I have a few, thank you. It's unfortunate, but the CDC is coming out with their recommendations tomorrow. Obviously, we don't know what they're going to say, but, well, I do have some concerns about concurrent teaching, and I would hope that we continue with discussions with that. I think our teachers need to be involved in this. And just because we can do something, I'm not sure we should do something. And I appreciate all the recommendations that that they made for us. And I'm just concerned that this may be like the third time we've gone rogue. I'm just putting it out there. I appreciate all the hard effort that the district has put into this. And I just, one last thing I want to say, I've had a couple of really, really heartbreaking letters from students saying that they're afraid for their teachers coming back. So it's a very, very difficult decision. And I'm glad you guys are making it.
We're all making it.
I'm just kidding.
All right, so any more comments, or does anybody have any motions that they would like to make at this point?
Again, Mark, Mark, I'd like to see if we could have an emergency meeting next week, Wednesday or Thursday. We should know exactly where we are in the tier. I think we'll be close to tier at that time to make a motion following Ms. McCaughey's regarding opening up elementary. And
Okay,
set a
so-
date.
Okay, so you're suggesting a special meeting to discuss a possible change to our
Yes, yes.
elementary.
It may be, and the opening could be after a week or two we're in red, but it'll be a red tier. But we won't have to wait until the state tells us we're in the red tier.
So do I second that? Is that a motion?
That's not a motion.
That's not a motion.
No, it's not a motion. It's just that I'm requesting that of Joan, and plus we'll have Joan back, I hope.
Well, then, can I make a motion to accept this recommendation for secondary?
Yep. Is that a motion?
If I can.
Oh,
Yeah.
Anybody, second? Is anybody going to second that?
Can you restate your motion so that we get it down?
My motion is to accept the recommendation for secondary schools, for all grades 6 through 9, to be returning to campus after 4 weeks in the red tier.
That's different than what's the recommendation, isn't it?
I'm just looking at this. Is this not the same motion?
Yeah, that's right.
This is, I apologize. The recommendation, which is outlined on page 25 or slide 23, I think, of the posted agenda, says all students in grades 6 and 9 and 6 through 12 moderate to severe SDC, and all village and alternative ed students will be invited to return to campus the week after grades 3 through 5.
Okay, can I make that motion, whatever David just said?
You just read it right off the thing.
Yeah,
I have a different page, yeah.
Oh,
okay. So, yeah, we can take that note. So the motion by trustee Carrion is that for secondary students, all students in grades 6 and 9 and 6 through 12, moderate to severe SDC, and all village and alternative education students will return to campus the week after students in grades 3 through 5 return.
and then all remaining secondary students
Correct.
invited to return the week following grades 6 and 9, and high school sports are allowed by tiers per guidance, et cetera.
That's information. So the first two probably
Okay.
would be a part of the motion. So as Mark stated, the second part of the motion would be all remaining secondary students will be invited to return the week following students in grades 6 through 9. Is that your motion, trustee Karen?
Yes.
Okay.
Do I have a second? I'll second. Comments, questions before we do vote?
Trustee Miller, can I just need clarification. So the way the motion reads is that if pre-K 2 start 1 week, 3 through 5, second week, and then as the motion reads, 6 through 9, and the other special groups would be the third week?
Well, the week after the
The
third to
week
fifth.
after that would be the third week. And
Well,
then
The original recommendation was pre-K to or preschool to second grade for 2 weeks, 3 to 5 on the third week, and 6 and 9 on the fourth week. That was the original. So really, what all we're saying here is, because basically, if you changed what we're doing on elementary school, then all you're saying is that the week after grades 3 and 5 go in, 6 and 9 go, and then the week after that, the remaining grades go, and the special day classes.
Okay, that makes sense to me, contingent on, we do have a special meeting to talk about primary, elementary, because I calculated out, we have 14 weeks left of school. So we're losing time, we're running out of time. And at some point, we're gonna have to draw a line in the sand and just say we're gonna be remote if cases don't go the way we want, COVID cases and whatnot. So I am concerned about the timeline. And each week that we go by, we're losing time with our students, with potentially time having an opportunity for engagement and re-engagement back in some sort of hybrid model. And so that's what I'm really concerned about, is the timing. So, those are
So
my
should we
thoughts.
amend it to 5 days after being in the red?
That would help with timing.
Okay, so let me throw this out there for you guys. So we've talked a little bit today about what it means to be in the red tier, and what we understand that to mean is that the county has achieved the red tier numbers and has been in that state for 3 weeks.
2.
3 weeks. 2.
2.
2 weeks, okay. All right, so 14 days, so theoretically. So then, so we will have been in that 14 days. Now, if you said that elementary then could be 10 days after that, but secondary is 5 days after that, you're actually starting secondary before elementary in that scenario.
Okay, so as long as they're in sync.
That wouldn't be in sync. So, yeah, so, and I'll just say this from my standpoint. I'll admit that when we made the decision on last board meeting, that when we said red tier, I was working under the assumption, wrong assumption, that that was as soon as we met the criteria for red. Not that it's 2 weeks of being in that criteria and then 10 days after that. That I can just tell you that was my thinking when I voted for that. So I don't know what you guys thought, but
Well, I did share some of my reflections, but it was, I was so concerned at the time I was not ready to say remote only for secondary, so I was really focused on that. And then, but I had more reflection later, and really concerned that we didn't spend more time talking about the options for elementary. So I think it's really important that we think about, if we have Alameda County guidelines giving suggestions for elementary, I really would feel that it's important that we revisit that, because as we know, the guidelines are changing from day to day and whatnot, but we need to adapt to those changes as well.
mm-hmm. So, and what Trustee Maher has recommended is that, or suggested, is that we have a special board meeting to reconsider our elementary opening date next week, and that, so I would suggest that Trustee Carrion's wording on this is more consistent with what we probably want, which would be to stagger it at least a little bit, such that the elementaries go in and then it kicks off the process. And so the way this is written on here on the recommendation is the week after the grades 3 and 5 go in, then 6. So it's relative to whenever that start is, rather than setting it specific to the red plus 5 or whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense. And from an implementation perspective and the amount of work that needs to put forth to get that into action, I can understand that. I think my only question would be, Dr. Haglund, how ready are the secondary schools for reopening? I know there's been lots of conversations on filters and, directional tasks and whatnot. So where are we with the reopening process for secondary?
So I'll defer to Mr. Sheikh Salami with regards to the filtration, and to Dr. Woodward with regards to the readiness at the secondary.
Great. In terms of the filtration system and ventilation systems, we're about 50-60% complete with the MERV 13 filters. We feel that within the next couple of weeks that'll be 100%. All the systems have been adjusted to maximize fresh air intake, and the controls have been adjusted to run according to the guidelines, as well as all the classrooms have been outfitted with the HEPA air filters. So we're pretty close on those goals.
How about classroom setups and diagrams, where to walk, where to leave, where to enter? Has that been done?
So that's been, that is pretty advanced right now at the elementary. Many of our secondary teachers, they haven't had that initial start date like the elementary did at one time. So we are our administrators have been in the classrooms, they've looked at the setup, they've done a lot of the measuring. But when the teachers know that they're coming back, then they would have those prep days so that they could help to determine how they want their desks. We have to be very mindful that teachers' classrooms are their homes away from home and not set up their arrangements for them. And so we will use the same process that we use with elementary, and they will be able to either request that we set up their classrooms, have a map of how they want their classroom set up for us, or they will do it on their transition days back to the classroom.
How about the custodians or maintenance? Have they been putting signs out, marking the campus about where to walk, how to keep distance?
Yeah, so we are working with the site administrators on those plans. All of that work is done and ready at the elementary schools, and the teams are now assisting, and we have dates scheduled next week to do the same at the secondary and high school. So I think within that 2-week time frame, that level of preparedness at the secondary schools will also be achieved.
Okay. Trustee Makashi, are you suggesting that the high school go back 5 days after we're in the red tier?
If it's doable.
Yes, I would be in favor of that.
We have a motion on the
That's not the
table that's
motion.
been seconded.
Yeah. So we ready to vote on that motion? We can
Could
always
we
vote
read
it.
that motion one more time, please?
The motion is that all students in grades 6 to 9 and 6 to 12, moderate to severe special day class, and all village alternative ed students are invited to return to campus the week after grades 3 to 5. All remaining secondary students are invited to return the week following grades 6 and 9. It's a 2-week rollout at the secondaries. And it's all contingent on when 3 to 5 goes in, relative to 3 to 5. That's the motion that's been seconded. Any more comments on it? Otherwise, we can take a vote. And then you can always vote it down, and we can make an alternative motion.
I know.
Okay? All right, so let's go around. Trustee Carrion?
Aye.
Trustee Maher?
No,
Trustee Mokashi?
No.
And I'm aye, so that fails because it's 2-2. Okay, so would somebody like to make an alternative motion?
well, maybe I should state that I'm not against doing the 2, 6th, and 9th separate. I just don't want the other high school students to wait another week before they come back. That's really my issue.
So do you have a
I don't
motion
a
around
problem
that?
with Village, any of that. I don't have a problem with the orientation. I just have a problem with the high school, the rest of the high school, waiting another week. Again, that's pushing them out.
So do you have a motion?
Well, maybe we take that up next week too, because maybe the cabinet needs to think about that without me telling them what they should do.
So could we make a motion to say that we're going to follow the Alameda County guidelines
Yep, you can.
and open secondary up after being 5 days in the red?
You can. Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
good.
If you want to make that motion?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
So motion
second.
is that secondary schools, and do you want to do it based on the schedule that is being, is your motion around, do you want to state that?
So I make a motion that we have secondary open 5 days after being in the red tier. So we would do grades 6 and 9 and the SDC first. And then the following week would be the following grades.
So what the change would be that you would say would return to campus 5 days after we have been in the red tier, instead of
2 weeks.
instead of the week after grades 3 to 6. That's basically what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, do we have a second? Is that clear?
No.
Okay, the motion, look, can I say, all students in grades 6 and 9 and 6 to 12 MS, SDC, and all village alternative ed students are invited to return to campus 5 days after we are in the red tier. All remaining secondary students are invited to return to the week following grades 6 and 9.
Correct.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay,
Yes.
do I have a
Well,
second?
Okay, but the problem is that we're saying
No,
that
no, we-
elementary won't be back
hold on.
for 2 weeks
Hold on a
after
minute.
being in the red. So it looks
Trustee
like
Carrion,
this
hold,
motion.
Trustee
We
Carrion,
don't
hold
know
on a
that.
second.
We might do something different next week.
Do we have a second to the motion? We have to have a second to talk about it.
Oh, sorry.
Hearing no second, that motion is on the table, off the table. Do we have another motion? I'll go ahead and reiterate the first motion that we made and ask for another vote on the first motion, and that is that the week after grades 3 to 5, because the thing is, well, the week after grades 3 to 5, we start the way it was originally stated. Anybody second that one?
I'll second it.
Okay, all right. So here's my thinking, is that if we did the five days after we turn the red tier, we could be starting secondary before elementary starts. That's what that would mean. That's why I don't think that's a viable option for going in.
So clarify that, though, why, though? Because we're not in the red tier yet.
No,
and-
but remember, what we have voted on already is that we are not opening elementary schools until 10 days after we're in the red tier. Yet,
Oh,
the
that was-
motion is to open secondary 5 days. That's the only reason. I
Okay,
know what
that-
you're trying to
that was the
say.
thing, I
You're
forgot.
you're predicated on starting elementary earlier, and then, so that would be a different way to do it. So that's,
Okay.
but I still think you could achieve the same thing. If we all voted to move elementary schools up earlier, then you're still following that 2 week, 1 week, and then they're on the
Okay, so
fourth.
you were just talking about that 10-day caveat. Okay, that was what I was forgetting.
Yeah,
Okay, so,
yeah,
all
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
So, to facilitate your conversation, Dr. Woodward, do you want to talk about your alternative slide? Assuming I heard what you said, Mark, about trying to move things sooner for elementary. Yes?
So, Mr. Sheikh-Islami, would you go to the slide that I drafted that I think maybe captures this concept, slide 19, please? Let's see if this captures the thinking correctly. So, if, right now we're in the purple tier, we know that elementary can reopen when we are less than 25 out of 100,000. And we know that in the purple tier, secondary schools are closed to in-person instruction. We know that in the purple tier, preschool through grades 2 and 3-5 could reopen. So if I'm following the conversation, it could look like this. That we could transition first to preschool through second while we're in the purple tier after the required time per the MOU. 1 week later, grades 3 through 5 could return. And then for grades 6 through 12, after 5 days of being in the red tier, we begin the process recommended tonight. All special day, moderate, severe, come back, and all village, 10 through 12. The following week, the remainder of the students come back. Does this,
I think that's what you were thinking, Trustee Mokashi. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seemed like that's what you were trying to get at, right?
I guess I don't understand. Maybe we need to, so another school of thought I had been thinking about was basically, if we have pre-K 2, why can't we have the 6th through 9th at the same time, consecutive? So, because we're losing time, like, we have 14 weeks left, so that's what I'm really struggling with.
Can't go in, secondary can't start till 5 days after the red tier.
Okay.
That's a given. That's a solid line, right? So
Yes, okay.
But I guess I would say, as much as the orientation would be good for the 6th and 9th, in normal times, they don't get an extra orientation. Everybody just starts right from the first day.
Yeah, so that would be, you're suggesting everybody goes at the same time then?
Yeah, or do maybe and we'd have to pay our staff and maybe do an evening, 6 to 9 or something, so that they could get their orientation, know where they're going. I just don't want, I agree with Trustee McCaughey. I don't want it to delay more than 5 days.
So after, okay, so again, we have a motion back on the table to stick with the recommendation as it's stated there for now, which all that does is it sets the parameters for secondary schools to be the week after 3rd to 5th graders. And so, and that's been seconded.
And just to be clear, that's still assuming that we're in the red tier for secondary.
For primary even,
Pardon me?
for even elementary school. That's the way it's currently stated, yes. Yeah, which would by default mean at least 5 days in the red tier for secondary, right? Even I can do that math.
Do we have to vote on it tonight? What if we tabled it a week to see where we are next week?
Yeah, we could.
Yeah. We'll have Joan back. It won't be so late. But I think for our community, know that the board and cabinet and everyone is working to get our kids back sooner.
Okay, so I'm going to go back through and take a vote again. So,
A motion on the table? Or no?
yes, we do. We're reiterating the first motion that was made. I reiterated that. Trustee Carrion?
Aye.
Trustee Maher?
No,
Trustee McCaughey?
No.
Okay, and I'm aye, so that fails. So, okay, so we can choose to table the conversation for another time. Just realizing that, of course, our instructors can't begin to get ready because they won't know, right? So,
Yeah, but what about what Janelle showed us? Is that possible to vote on or no?
I think we can, if we wanted to. I mean, I don't think there's any reason we can't change that based on what's the agenda item.
can we see that again? And then Dave, we'd have to set the return time for the elementary.
10 days from tomorrow.
To set the date, but if you move to this level of guidance, we've already provided the 10 days notice as of the 12/17 MOU. So those are 10 days notice. So that doesn't come into play. It's more about establishing when the three, the one orientation day and the three transition days, setting those dates. So I hate to do this, Mark, but can we call a 5-minute recess?
Yes, we can. Return at 11:10, 5-minute recess. Thank you.
Okay.
welcome back. It's 11:10. We got to be done in 50 minutes, so we got to make sure we get through this stuff. So, Dr. Hagelin, do you have any comments on what we've been talking about?
Yeah, actually, I do. I want to go back to my comment about the way the item was agendized. And I'm concerned as we're shifting this that we have not properly noticed the community about an intent to change our plan for elementary. So I'm going to recommend that we table the item and that we come back at a special meeting and have a conversation about it. But I need you to do that. I can't do that
Yeah,
myself.
the whole thing, or just,
Yeah, just table the whole agenda item and we'll revisit it.
okay, yeah. Everybody good with that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. What'd you say?
Recommendation, since we didn't really notice the community that we were going to potentially reopen elementary school as an opening motion, that we should table this conversation for a subsequent meeting where we can notice the community properly. So a special board meeting next week or something like that.
Correct. We do have Brown Act requirements to
Yep.
properly notice the community
2 hours.
prior to voting on an item. And this item did clearly state it was for, the recommendation from staff was related to secondary schools.
Sorry.
And so I'm just not comfortable moving forward.
Yep, that's fair. Everybody good with that? We do not have motions on the table right now, so. Okay. Hearing no objection, I will suggest we do that. Move to table.
And then I second it, or?
No,
It's moved?
we don't have to second that, right? Okay. I move to table the motion until a subsequent meeting. Second, anyone?
I second.
Second, okay. Trustee Carrion.
Aye.
Trustee Maher. Trustee Carrion. Trustee Mokosh. Okay. Aye as well. Okay, it's tabled.
We can't hear
Okay.
you, Steve.
Next week will be the meeting, Mark?
We'll have to figure out what that date and time will be as it's,
Okay.
in terms of people's
Now we're
schedules.
talking about both elementary and secondary?
Yep.
Yeah. That'll be the only agenda item,
Okay.
I hope.
Okay, next is the 12.3 report discussion and possible action on the revised board policy 5030 student wellness.
All right. Thank you, Vice President Miller. So we'll try to get through the presentation quickly. This policy has been brought to the Board Policy Subcommittee in June of 2020 by the Student Services staff. So I'm going to turn it over to them. In your packet is the red line version, and then there's the proposed version. So Ashley Sprader, our Coordinator of Student Services, Monica Wharton, Student Assistance Program Specialist, Kelsey Peruse, Coordinator of Child Nutrition Services, and Kathleen Reef, Director of Student Services, is on our panel. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Sprader.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. We are going to go over the updates to Board Policy 5030. And go ahead. Thank you. The current Student Wellness Board Policy 5030 was last updated in May of 2006. In 2019, through Student Services Support Division, we reconvened a once existing district wellness committee to review and update the wellness policy. Within the district-wide wellness committee, we also created relevant subcommittee groups that we will talk about in a later slide, and those are by content area. Then on June 16th, as Mr. Dialazzo said, we presented the proposed wellness policy 5030 to the board policy subcommittee. The core of the wellness policy encourages a comprehensive approach to school and community wellness that is sensitive to the needs of students, staff, and the community. During the 2019-20 school year, the first task that the District Wellness Committee completed was to review and update the wellness policy. Through the process, the committee reviewed the components of the Coordinated School Health Program and recommendations by the California Department of Education and Department of Health Services. The District Wellness Committee includes various representatives such as district and school site administrators, teachers, school counselor, nurses, child nutrition services staff, social workers, school psychologists, teaching and learning staff, community partners, including PPIE, parents, caregivers, and students interested in health and wellness topics. One of the key updates that the wellness policy includes is further defining what wellness is, as well as the various policy content areas. The content areas include student wellness through the development of health education, physical education and activity, health services, psychological and counseling services, nutrition services, safe and healthy school environment. Additionally, staff wellness content areas include the promotion of health education and wellness related activities. There's also an area of the policy that includes involvement of parent and caregivers and the overall community in reinforcing students' understanding and appreciation of the importance of a healthy lifestyle. It is a bulky board policy with a lot of components. The District Wellness Committee created a mission statement and included defining what is wellness. The mission of the Pleasanton Unified School District Wellness Committee is to value and promote whole person wellness, which we define as the interplay of cognitive, behavioral, emotional, physical, and social well-being of our students, our staff, and our families. The definition is also included within the proposed wellness policy and includes how the connection of cognitive, behavioral, emotional, physical, and social well-being contributes to overall health. The District Wellness Committee, the subcommittees of the group include nutrition services, physical education, healthy school environment, staff wellness, family and community involvement, comprehensive health education, student wellness services, which includes health, counseling, psychological, and social services. On the next slides, you will hear some of the updates from the subcommittee focus areas.
During the Federal Child Nutrition Services audit, completed every 3 to 5 years, the district wellness policy is evaluated for compliance in 3 specific areas. That's physical education, health education, and nutrition standards. One of the essential things addressed in our wellness policy and reflected in our actions is offering nutritious meals that meet federal nutrition guidelines. Throughout the pandemic, the Child Nutrition Services Department has maintained compliance with federal nutrition guidelines and has gone above and beyond what is required. We believe offering nutritious meals, especially during a pandemic, is integral to the student health and wellness.
Hi, I wanted to just share this slide, which basically highlights the resources that we currently have to help with community awareness. So last spring, we created a PUSD wellness website, and this website hosts a wealth of information for both students and parents and guardians. It's designed to be sort of a one-stop shop where any information and resources pertaining to wellness, both within the district and in the community and online, can be found. So we have information on the wellness website about social emotional learning, PBIS at PUSD. There is a ton of parent education and resources, a calendar of wellness events hosted by various community partners. We have information about PUSD counseling and mental health services, including links to the virtual wellness centers and virtual counseling offices that our counseling staff has created. We have information from social workers and community resources, and along with information about physical education and nutrition and other areas of wellness. The wellness website also has things like links to yoga and exercise videos online, meditations, calming music, all kinds of things that you might want to research or look into pertaining to wellness. The second link about or that says parent education is from our social work team. It includes a video series on a variety of different topics, and then moving around the graphic, the mental health awareness presentation. This was pushed out to all students in the spring during Mental Health Awareness Week, and it really just overviews what mental health is. It looks at some of the more common teen mental health struggles and includes a wealth of resources for students to access, both at their school sites along with tools like phone apps and other online resources that they can access, especially during remote learning. The next link is community-based supports, also designed by our social work team, and it resources that range from COVID information to resources on clothing, food, transportation, medical, mental health, and so forth. And then you heard Kelsey talk about the nutrition piece, and that links to our PUSD site where you can find all the information that Kelsey was alluding to: nutrition education, nutrition and fitness, school lunch menus, and so forth. So really just kind of a place where community members can go to find all the information that they need to on wellness.
Thank you, Monica. And with such a unique year, we have created a variety of those wellness resources, hopefully to increase accessibility for our students, our families, and our staff. Our hope is to contribute to building a healthy school environment while supporting academic growth and positive behavioral, social, and emotional development. Moving forward with the next steps, the Wellness Committee will complete an annual evaluation as a touch point for compliance to the wellness policy. Child Nutrition Services, as part of their audit, must complete an assessment every 3 years. Annual evaluations will be utilized to target opportunities for improvement to ensure compliance for the mandated assessment. Next steps also involve further development of Administrative Regulation 5030 that will include the assessment of the policy and other compliance items that have to do with nutrition standards, health education, and physical education. Within AR 5030, we will also support the development of a school or site-based wellness committee that would then have a representative or liaison to the district-wide wellness committee. We currently have a variety of committees that are wonderful at our school sites that do a lot of the important work around wellness, awareness, health, and positive school climate, such as PBIS and mental health. With the support of an updated and current wellness board policy, we can move towards increased collaborative efforts for our students, our staff, and our families. Thank you guys for having us, and if you have any questions, we are here for that.
Thank you very much. Trustee Carrion, any questions or comments?
Yes, I love your website. I didn't even know we had that. It's a great website. I just have one sentence that I really do not like. I'm sorry. I've been a teacher for 30 years, and the one that says class parties or celebrations shall be held after lunch period when possible. I feel like you're micromanaging the teachers because, I mean, I gave lots of great breakfasts and it was great. So I just don't like that sentence.
Trustee
Kelsey,
Maher, questions or comments?
I think Kelsey had a comment about that recommendation.
Sorry about that. Thanks.
Yeah, so Trustee Carrion, that's a great question. So what we think about when we think about asking parents or asking teachers to offer class parties after lunch is really that we want to allow students the opportunity to participate in the school lunch program. So we do offer a second chance breakfast at all of our elementary schools, and then we also offer lunch. And so one of the focuses of our program is offering a nutrition-based program that meets federal guidelines. And so by offering the class parties afterwards, it doesn't interfere with the program that we're offering.
Okay, I can just agree to disagree.
Trustee Maher, questions or comments? You're on mute. Trustee Mukashi, questions or comments?
I did ask this over the weekend. I just wanted clarification. I would like a little more detail on the plans for helping our students with post-COVID recovery and some of the additional issues with, technology addiction or increased anxiety, the negative effects of technology usage. I'd like to hear a little bit more about perhaps what you've been doing or plans to do around the post-COVID recovery and helping our students transition back to hybrid and on-site instruction.
I don't mind starting with that one. In terms of what we have been doing, we do meet regularly, at least monthly, with all of our counselors and our school social workers to create resources. If we feel there's gap areas over the COVID time, we've created a variety of resources, and we try to make all of those like on-demand style so that people can access them at any point in time as a video. We upload them to the website. A lot of them have involved parent education as well around anxiety, depression, gaming addiction. We've brought in presenters over the last year as well to try and create opportunities for our community providers to then present information as well, including access in the Hume Center. And in terms of what we can do as we transition back, we also speak closely with our students to get ideas on what their needs are. And that is a portion of the wellness policy and the committee moving forward, is having student input on there. We know we need to hear from our students, especially in this times of a transition or a potential transition, of what their needs are. So we're fortunate to have really amazing students on our current PBIS site teams that do give us some of that information, at least that I'm a part of, and there's a lot more going on as well through SIAC, that we get mental health awareness that they're creating, and even a mental health week that they're working on. We have an Ask the Counselor series going on that Monica can speak a little bit more about. So we're trying to push out as many resources as we can, without also realizing that people might not have time to see some of these. So we're trying to make them as accessible as we can, so it could be on their own time.
Can you put the Ask the Counselors on your website too?
Yeah, Monica, I'm not sure. Is it already on there though, right?
PPIE has it linked. I think they have a YouTube channel that specifically has the Ask a Counselor series, and I was going to add it to the wellness website before tonight, so it'll get done tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you.
So that's great to hear. I had one other question. So you've really provided a great overview with the District Wellness Committee. Could you elaborate a little bit more at how the Wellness Committee is rolling down at the school sites? As I've read the policy, the expectation is also to have it with the school sites. Could you share a little bit more about what that looks like at the school sites?
Yeah, the overall goal is that we have a wellness committee at the school sites, and that doesn't necessarily have to be a new committee. We know that there's committees that exist, so it's really that we're going to have to take an inventory of what already exists at our school sites, and then determine how can we have a liaison that then is a part of the district-wide wellness committee, so we're not reinventing the wheel and recreating things at school sites. And we can have initiatives that are district-wide as well, that everyone's getting the same information. So that's the ultimate goal. So a lot of that more nitty-gritty information will be in the Administrative Regulation 5030 that is attached to this board policy.
Absolutely. No, that's great to hear, and especially with the long-term effects of the pandemic. We keep talking about the social emotional support for our students, and this really gives an avenue to help translate it into action for our students. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So my questions were really around the assessment and so forth, which we haven't really had, I don't think, on a yearly basis. That to me is very exciting. Well, everything about this is extremely exciting. This to me is like the most important thing we do, honestly. And so I really am interested in the kind of the metrics that you guys would be coming up with to measure against on an assessment basis, right? And it's is it visits to counselors, obviously you, Kelsey, you guys do a ton of metrics in child nutrition services, which is great, but it's just some way to kind of quantify the value or the benefits that we're getting out of the program, I think would be really good. How many students we're touching. We see them all over the place. I mean, Ed, you send out a bunch of stuff too, and kind of like how many people reach out to the various sites that we have and all that, which is great. So anyway, I'm really interested in that, and I look forward to the yearly assessment a lot. With that, I will seek a motion to approve the board policy 5030.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Do I have a second? I think that was a muted second from Trustee Maher. You're on mute. Second. Oh, yeah, I like that. A nonverbal one. Okay, so this is a roll call vote since it's a resolution. I mean, it's a board. No, it isn't a roll call vote. Never mind. Sorry, I thought it was I don't know. I was thinking it was a resolution. So anyway, Trustee Carrion?
Aye.
Trustee Maher?
Aye.
Trustee Makashi?
Aye.
And enthusiastic aye from me. So thank you.
Trustee Miller, we'd
Yes.
like to go ahead and postpone 12.4 to the February 25th board meeting.
Okay. Any objections from board members to postponing the report and discussion of the annual student enrollment report until the next board meeting?
No objection.
That's fine.
Hearing none, we'll move on to 12.5, which is report discussion and possible action on the agreement for West Side Landscape and Concrete, Inc. for field renovations at Hearst and Vintage Hills Elementary Schools.
Great, I'll take this on. This is a continuation of our field renovation projects. In the fall, we worked on Harvest Park and Hart and Alisal. And so those are the grass is growing and those fields are starting to take shape. And then this is continuing those projects at Hearst Elementary and Vintage Hills. And we went out to bid and we got competitive bids and are looking to approve that to the West Side Landscape and Concrete.
Questions or comments, Trustee Carrion?
Nope.
Trustee Maher?
Just one question, Mr. Sheikh Salami. If we can't hire our own landscapers, are we looking just to extend a contract with the company to keep up the great work they're doing?
Yeah, so yes, so the contract does come with a maintenance period included as part of kind of like making sure that the work that they have done is properly, taking hold in terms of the field. And if we are unable to fill the open ground positions, we are in discussions with CSCA to do some temporary field hiring for the landscape companies in the meantime.
Yeah, because I went by Harvest Park today and it's beautiful. And I would hate to see that go downhill.
Correct. But we will maintain our fields.
Good.
Good.
Thank you. Great job.
Trustee Makashi, any questions on this one?
Just one quick question. I apologize, I didn't ask it ahead of time. Just confirming, you got 2 bids, and this was the lowest bid?
Correct.
That's been listed?
Correct.
Okay, that was the only question I had. Thank you.
No questions for me. Seeking a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Carrion?
Aye.
Trustee Maher?
Aye.
Trustee Makashi?
Aye.
And I as well. And moving on to 12.6, which is report discussion. Here's my resolution. Possible action on the resolution 2020-21.17 to establish a Fund 71 for the employee benefits, other post-employment benefits, OPEB.
Okay, so this is very quickly, we've been at this for a while, and these are all the little details that we've had to do. So we opened the funds with CalPERS CERT fund, so that was done several months ago. And then at the last board meeting, the board agreed on a strategy and transferring those funds. And so in order to transfer those funds, we have been advised to establish a Fund 71 at the county so that the funds can be properly transferred over. So that's what this resolution is doing, is just establishing a fund within our county for us to be able to do that.
Questions or comments, Trustee Carrion?
No, thank you.
Trustee Maher?
Nope.
Trustee Mokashi?
No questions.
And I have no questions as well, so seeking a motion on this one.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Second.
Okay, this is a roll call vote, which we've been doing anyway. So Trustee Carrion?
Aye.
Trustee Maher?
Aye.
Trustee Mokashi?
Aye.
And I as well. 12.7, report discussion and possible action on the contract with CWDL for independent auditor for the fiscal year 21 to 23.
Great. Yes, and so back in 2018, the district went out with a full RFP and selected CWDL as our independent auditor, and they have been performing their work satisfactorily during this 3-year period. And so we asked them to submit a proposal for another 3 years, brought that to the audit committee, and the audit committee felt that we should maintain them for another 3 years. They've kept their fees flat, I believe, for the 3 years, and it also includes the Measure I-1 audit as well, in addition to the general audit they do on the district. So we're asking for approval of their a 3-year contract.
Questions or comments, Trustee Carrion?
No, but they've done a great job, so thanks.
Trustee Maher?
Again, I agree. I've been on that committee for 2 years, and they've done excellent work.
Trustee Mokashi?
No questions.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they've been very good. Okay, seeking a motion on this one.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Trustee Carrion?
Aye.
Trustee Maher?
Aye.
Trustee Mokashi?
Aye.
And I as well. Board reports and requests. Trustee Carrion?
I would like an update for planning for next year. Are we going to have a task force? Who's going to be on the committee? How's it going so far? Are they meeting? I would like an update on that, please. And then I went to a PPI workshop, and they've got these great wellness videos, Ask a Counselor series, and they're trying to figure out ways to get that information out to the schools. And the shade structure for Amador is now 100% of the funds have been raised, so that's good news.
Great.
So, and the wellness and the fairgrounds vaccination should be open in 2 weeks.
Great. So how would you like the update on 2021? Is board communique or?
I don't know. I think people in the audience would like to know too. So either a board communique, but it would be nice to update the public what we're doing, like for transparency. So maybe like, I don't know, 5 minutes update. I don't know. You guys can decide.
Trustee Maher, any requests or reports?
No, just that we have that meeting next week, get things finalized.
Trustee Mokashi?
Yes, Council Member Valerie Arkin is part of a coalition for the Alameda County Coalition for Fair Redistricting, and they are putting together a resolution that just talks about allocating adequate resources and direct the creation of policies to ensure an equitable, inclusive, and transparent redistricting process. It's nonpartisan, just wanting to share some information, so I'd like to present this resolution for consideration to the board at some point. So I'll send that along to the superintendent and president.
Perfect. Anything else?
No, I look forward to that special meeting. Thank you.
All right, I do not have anything to add. So our next board meeting will be on Thursday. Oh, no. Well, the next scheduled board meeting will be Thursday, February 25th, but I think we've been promised a special board meeting sometime next week to discuss school reopening again. With that, we'll adjourn the meeting at 11:37.